the Journey with the Jays. John, Jake, myself, and tonight we're joined by Rafael Esparza from MyBookie.ag and DocSports.com. Welcome to the show, Rafael.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I've actually went back to watch a couple of your guys' shows that I found. Really good stuff, really good information stuff too. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Well, you had a chance, I'm sure, to see some of our NFL stuff, so you could kind
Yes,
of evaluate it.
I watched a couple of your NFL stuff, and I'm not going to say which one, but one of you guys had some horrible winners, so I'm not going to say who.
It's either myself or John. I can tell you right now, two worst teams.
So how did you get into setting lines and working in the sportsbook industry?
Legally or illegally? I mean, because it's two different answers you get in there. In high school, I had to stop playing sports, and my cross-street neighbor, you could say he was a bookie. So I was at home a lot because I was sick. So I was always at his house because he had TVs all over the place. I could watch the horses in the afternoon and games in the evening time with him. And I learned that way, how point spreads work and all that. Because, again, I was naive. And then so I started taking over some of his business. And then when I went to Vegas, my parents moved there when I was in high school. I stayed back in Chicago just because, it was a girl. I stayed for a girl. But anyways, that's another show. But so when I went back there to Vegas and I started working at Caesar's Palace in '97, which people don't know. Caesar's Palace was the first sports book to ever have sports betting prop bets. They were the first book to put up William Perry scored a touchdown against the New England Patriots. That was a big deal. That was the first time the Nevada Gaming Control Board let them do anything besides, who's going to win, over, under, all the first half stuff. So Caesar's Palace was the first book, even though they got crushed on that because everyone bet William Perry was going to score a touchdown on that Super Bowl. And I still think Walter Payton should have scored, but that's another story as well. Should have scored on that one. But, yeah, I worked at 97 Caesars, and then my whole management staff went over to MGM. And in 2000, right after Y2K, after Y2K didn't wipe out anything, we all went to MGM. And I worked for MGM Mirage for over 13 Super Bowls. We call Super Bowls not years just because it's more devastating to work a Super Bowl than work a New Year's during a sports book. So, like I said, I've been in the industry. 2013, I retired. My contract ended for MGM, and I was getting so much media requests, TV requests, doing different stuff that Nevada wouldn't let me do for betting odds. I wanted to do, entertainment stuff, political stuff, and all that. And I was handcuffed, so I just went solo. I went, opened up my own industry, my own stuff, and never looked back. Now I get paid to watch some horrible TV during the day, and I collect paychecks.
It's not a bad way to live. I mean, collecting paychecks and watching bad TV.
Yeah,
now, when you what would be some of the things you would point out for people when they look to bet on a different event?
Number one, I tell people, just because there's a game on TV does not mean you have to bet it. Fantasy, sports betting, anything. Just because you clicked on your TV and ESPN has a college game, an NBA game, NHL starts on Wednesday, doesn't mean you have to bet it. You always want to bet smart. You always want to bet when you have value, not just because my favorite team's betting or this pitcher stinks and all that. You always want to show value, no matter how you bet. If you're just playing fantasy, if you're just playing sports betting, just because there's a game on TV does not mean you have to bet it. Even though the bosses who are probably going to watch this maybe not like me saying that, but at the same time, you just have to bet smart. I tell people, just because it's sports betting, you're also betting numbers. It's almost like I just told you earlier. You're betting the stock market. You're betting the number that you have, not who's going to win. I could care less the name on the jersey in the back or how many home runs or how many touchdowns this guy's thrown. What's the bottom number? What am I getting? Am I getting 3? Am I getting 7? That's the number you're looking at, not the team name or the logo on the hat. So I tell people, just because, again, that's the number one rule. If there's a game on TV, does not mean you have to bet it.
Now, so you said you do a lot of prop bets and everything. What were some of your favorite prop bets that you've created?
For the NBA, I think player prop bets is what the people really like. I'm trying to be a little bit more inventive on NHL prop bets just because I think out of all the sports, NBA, baseball, and all that, I think the NHL players probably get disrespected more than any team besides maybe an offensive lineman in the NFL, just because. But I think there's not that many. If you look at our NHL stuff, there's not really that many betting prop bets. So I think more player prop bets for the NHL, I think, is going to be more interesting. But I think the betting public loves player prop bets, period. I mean, of course, they'll bet first half, first quarter, how many goals are going to be scored. They're always going to bet that. But I think player prop bets is the number one thing. One thing that we were one of the first books at MGM was the Grand Salami, was you can bet the over-under how many goals were going to be scored in that game, in that day. So if there was 10 NHL games, we would make the number of, if it's 115 goals scored on Wednesday on January 13th. You can bet the over-under. So that just tells people, hey, you know what? I could care less who wins. I want goals. I just want to watch a whole bunch of goals scoring, and I'm going to try to beat that one. So that was probably one of the most.
Quick thing.
Yeah.
If 115 goals were scored throughout 10 games, that would be impressive. That's a lot of goals.
That would just get. I agree on that one. So I think that was probably one of the bigger stuff that we did for the state of Nevada and for gaming, and total runs, hits, and errors for baseball on each game. People really liked that one. So my goal was try to, if you didn't really like the game, okay, if you're going to watch it and I want to burn $20, okay, what do I want to bet on? Okay, maybe I'll just bet the total runs, hits, or errors, or the Grand Salami, or how many dunks is LeBron James going to have, or when I do wrestling, if Roman Reigns is wrestling, how many Superman punches is he gonna throw in this match? So I'll do stuff like that just because people like that, because I think it's more entertainment.
That's cool. Now, you also set props for entertainment and other avenues besides sports, right?
Yes, I'm glad the election is finally over, because I have never worked so hard in that election week, and I never seen so much money come in on one single event. And I'm talking, I've worked 20 plus Super Bowls, I worked 20 plus March Madnesses, I worked Saturdays where the Kentucky Derby was going, the Celtics were playing the Miami Heat in Game 6 in the NHL playoffs, and Mayweather was fighting Pacquiao on the same day. And I'd never seen so much money come in on a 24-hour hour of election day. So I'm just glad that thing's finally over. But I mean, I think that's what people are going to lean towards on, because like I said, everyone, I know sports is all that, but I mean, since now that we're stuck at home, people want to be entertained. And I mean, people probably burning their Netflix accounts and Amazon accounts. Okay, so if I'm going to put a betting prop bet on the next series of Cobra Kai or the next series of whatever's coming up on Netflix and all that, I had season 3 of The Boys betting prop bets on Prime Video. So I mean, I'll do anything for like I said, for entertainment purposes, because people are at home now, and I think this is going to be the way it is. People are going to work more from home now, even though there's a cure or a vaccine or whatever you're going to. Companies are going to start realizing, hey, it's cheaper to pay someone to sit at home than it is to come and drive to work.
Well, that definitely makes sense. Now, with the different prop bets now, are those specific to different books, or are those widespread like lines?
They're starting to be a little bit more relaxed. Now, here in the States, I think it's going to take a little bit longer for them to accept election prop betting, TV stuff, and all that, just because people are going to always realize that, oh, what if the outcome, people know the outcome. Yeah, people know the outcome a lot. People know the outcome in sports sometimes, and we still bet games, and we still bet tennis matches, and those games have been fixed. People just need to realize, if you set a low limit and just do it for customer service. I mean, some stuff I just do is just for customer service only. If someone can tweet it out, or if it starts trending on social media, and let's say we only lose, like, let's say 10,000 or 20,000, you know what? It's still successful, because those people are going to cash those tickets that they got and maybe bet their $20 on the New York Rangers to win the Stanley Cup, or $50 for Tampa Bay to beat the Saints this weekend. That money's probably still going to stay in-house. So I'd rather pay those $50, $100 entertainment bets, knowing that they're going to bet on these NFL playoff games, or NHL starting tomorrow, and Champions League that starts in 2 weeks, or McGregor fighting in 2 weeks at Fight Island. So as long as the money stays in the house, I don't care if I lose on small entertainment bets.
Now, out of all the years you've been doing this, do you have like one particular story or day that stands out to you, or like with different events?
I've met a lot of celebrities. I've hung out with a lot of people in Vegas, between Jordan, Barkley, Tiger Woods. I think my most memorable moment is when Floyd Mayweather wanted to kick my ass in the sports book in front of probably, I don't know, 200 people. He probably had 20 of his posse, and he kept on saying, "Jump the counter, I'll take care of you." And so it was a good back and forth. The story was the Eagles were playing the Cowboys. I don't know what week it was in football. And he came up, one of his clonies came up with a duffel bag of money. He says, I think it was 250,000. I could be wrong. I know it was six figures. Give me 250,000 on the Eagles. I'm like, sorry, I can't do that. Because they were actually putting the ball on the field to kick it off to start the game. I'm like, I'm sorry. If you're going to bet 250,000, you need to at least give me at least 10 minutes notice, because there's a lot of other phone calls I got to make to accept this wager before we just take the wager of $250,000. So by the time I told him, no, he can't have it, and then Mayweather comes up to the window. Don't you know who I am? I told him, I don't care less who you are. Jesus could come to the window. I'm still not giving you $250,000. And next thing you know, the ball kicked off, and now he's going ape shit because I didn't take his bat. So it was going back and forth. He says, if I go around a corner, he's going to take care of me. I was like, I can go around the corners all you want. You can take care of me all you want, because that $250,000 is going to be mine if you put any kind of hand on me. So I think that was probably that was the last good memory I had in sports books. I mean, I've had ones where when Gonzaga lost to Western Kentucky in March Madness a couple years ago by a last-second shot, that we were going to win $60,000, but then we ended up losing $1.2 million on that last-second shot that must have hit the rim about 20 times before the ball went into the hoop. So there's a lot of days where pumping Tums like Tic Tacs in my office just because we lost a bad beat.
Wow. So how much was the most you've ever seen one of your books lose in a day?
I think when the Giants won the Super Bowl, when they beat the Patriots, when they didn't go undefeated, I think that was probably one of our biggest losses in the day. And I actually saw that was it was probably, I think we had to go to the cage like 3 to 4 times because you kept on running out of money. So I'm like, hold on, we had to close the windows, we had to run to the cage, get more money, come back, because it was just nonstop, just cashing tickets. I mean, that was a very, I didn't get to normally when I used to work in Vegas, I would stay in a hotel the whole week of Super Bowl just because it's just crazy. And I didn't get to my room until like 4 a.m, and I had to come back down at 6 a.m. because that's what time we opened, and people were still lined up to cash tickets for my 2-hour shower and shave, and went back downstairs to work. I think the most memorable Super Bowl is when the Ravens won their first Super Bowl. I was working at MGM. That's when Phil, I can tell his name. Who cares? He hates me anyways. Phil Mickelson won a $2.5 million bet at Bellagio and gave $0 to the cashier. Just left her nothing. Drew Carey, I was at MGM. He comes cashes his ticket because he was a stand-up comic in our comedy room that night. I think he cashed for less than $50,000. It wasn't. I mean, of course, it's a lot of money for us, but he cashed $50,000. He could have it all in chips. We gave him all in chips. He's like, "Can I have?" I think he asked for $10,500 chips. So we gave him 10, and he gave every employee that was working there a $500 chip. He's like, "How many people are working in the back?" I'm like, 3. He's like, "Bring him out. I want to physically hand them to him." I'm like, okay. He was just happy he won. I mean, if it was $1, he probably would have gave everyone a nickel. He was just thrilled to have the one high-fiving everybody, telling jokes. I mean, he's like, "I wish you guys could be drinking. I'd buy you guys beers right now." But, I mean, it was just a cool moment to see someone at his stature just be so thankful and be so grateful at the same time.
That's pretty cool. So I got 2 quick questions for you. So the first one, you kind of touched on a little bit, and I think the answer is probably going to be that Giants Super Bowl. But what was like the craziest moment for you in terms of being in control of the books? Like, what was not like the craziest bet, but the craziest betting day, the single event that was like, so wild being on your side of things as opposed to our side of things.
I think when the Tennessee Titans would play the Rams, remember the Titans were the 7 yards short to score that touchdown, and it actually pushed. So the number was 7 and actually ended at 7. So everyone got their refund back. So granted, we didn't lose, but we had to give everybody their money back. So it was just like we did lose because we were just giving everyone their $10 back, $20 back. It just so that was probably the most controlling. Like I remember people like, who's the odds maker back there? And it would be me, like, hey, me and some other guy. They're like, I can't believe you guys got it correct. That's bullshit. We should have won, or we should have. I'm like, all right. I mean, what am I going to do? So I think that one probably is going to be the most memorable because A, they almost won the game, and B, it landed right on the number. So everyone got their money back.
Hey, you look like a genius then, right? Because you got
so like, I was walking to my hotel room. Yeah.
And then the other thing that we were kind of talking about, we've talked about this before. We used to do the gambling on the NFL show. So keeping in line with that, like live betting is a huge thing now.
Yes.
How has that affected you guys? I'm sure it's had an effect, but what is the effect now?
It is. I mean, I think more people will do live betting because sometimes you just miss the game. I'm like, hey, I'm driving home from work. I don't get home until 5. The game gets started at 5. I'll just jump on some live betting. Live betting pretty much almost erased halftime betting. I mean, we still get action on halftime betting for football and the NBA, but I think now live betting pretty much. Why would I want to do halftime betting when I could just do live betting all through second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, or second period, third period? So I think it surpassed the popularity of halftime betting. Granted, halftime betting still exists, and the wise guys and the sharps love halftime betting. But for the average guy that's just going to sit around and watch a game or through their app or through their computer, they love live gaming. So I think that's what's probably the biggest moneymaker that we've had probably in the past 2 years, and it keeps on growing. I mean, live betting in soccer is probably so big, probably bigger than college football. I mean, nothing. Of course, NFL is always creme of the creme, but for live betting, soccer is probably right up there with the NFL.
Yeah, I figured it might be kind of helpful because I'm not a person that bets or gambles or anything, but if I was going to, I would take my chances on a live bet probably because my odds are the best. Like instead of betting, oh, here's going to be over under for the whole game. Let's say there's an over/under for the next, let's say quarter. That's I feel like that's easier because you get an idea of the game flow at that point.
Now, the most frustrating for live betting is baseball because people always like, oh, I was up 7-3, and then they brought the bullpen in, and the guy gave up 5 runs, and so for probably the most brutal sport to do live betting would probably hands down has to be baseball.
I found a trick with live betting baseball with one of the apps. Because with the DraftKings app, they'll buy back your bet or they'll offer you to cash out. So, you can basically, if you get a close game, if it gets to extra innings, you can basically keep hedging and win money if you have money in the account to keep betting. But it's crazy because you got to keep going. And I did that with tennis once. It's really wild. You can start doing all sorts of weird things when you have money in there and start hedging both sides and somehow end up ahead if you know what you're doing. I just haven't figured it out with tennis. It would take time, but
we have guys that probably make a killing doing that in tennis for live betting. It's I just don't have the time. I mean, I know the system that they use and what to look for and stuff like that pays off pretty well. But I mean, I have my phone's always ringing and my emails are always piling up, so I don't have time to sit around and live bet tennis all the time. I wish I did.
John, do you have any questions? Raphael, I definitely want to thank you for stopping by. We'll definitely can check you out on MyBookieAG and DocSports.com. Is there anywhere else we can see your work?
No, you guys follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter at VSI.Sports. I'm on Instagram with Raphael Esparza. I do a poll on Instagram, and sometimes these polls are really hot. And I'll pick the game of the day and put the point spread on there and have the public bet on it, who's going to win. And last year, the poll was so cold, the betting public lost 13 in a row. So I was telling people on all my social media, it's fade the poll. You want to make money? Just go against the poll. They won. They dropped 13 in a row. So people like that and they enjoy that. So you can follow me on Instagram at Raphael Esparza.
Well, we definitely appreciate you taking the time to come on, and I look forward to having you on the program.
Anytime you guys have questions or anything, you have my, I'll send you guys my email address and stuff like that. Anytime you have questions and concerns, feel free to jump on there because, like I said, I know a lot of beat writers, so I know. Sometimes I know a lot of the trades are going to happen 24 hours before. That's why I try to put my betting prop bets out early before the trades even happen to try to make fun of all the media people.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Raphael. You have a great evening.
Take it easy, guys. Have a great evening.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye. So, I mean, that was Rafael Esparza again from mybookie.ag and docsports.com. So, getting into betting, let's talk about the NFL last weekend. What happened to Seattle? Let's start with that game. Jake, why does Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks tend to have games where they disappear? John talks about it all the time.
I was going to say, John always talks about it.
Yeah, that's why we're not going to go to him first. I'm going to go to you. Why does this happen to them?
I wish I knew what happened, like mentally, but I'm convinced that's what it's got to be. It's got to be a mental block. There's got to be something going on in their heads that maybe they look past their opponents. That's my biggest guess. Is probably he just Russell Wilson and the guys just kind of like, oh, we can beat them. We're better than them, and they get ahead of themselves mentally, and inevitably they obviously get too far ahead, and it doesn't work out in their favor. But that would be my guess. And the other thing is, John has talked about it, Seahawks just get cold sometimes. I mean, the defense was not great to start the season. They were terrible. And truthfully, they never got great. And Russell Wilson and the offense just couldn't get things going. And part of that, I have to give credit to the Rams because they do have a good defense. We've talked about them as a solid, strong defense. And obviously, Aaron Donald is still going to always be one of the best defensive players in the league every single year. We constantly talk about him. And obviously, he got pressure on Russell Wilson, and they did their job. And clearly, Russ and Seahawks offense couldn't get things going. That's between the mental blocks of probably getting too ahead of themselves and just not getting things going. That's probably their two biggest mistakes.
John, what was your thoughts on it? You're on, John. We're not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right. So when I was watching the Titans game on Sunday, they reminded me of the Seahawks from Saturday. Both teams looked identical in the way of their defenses played relatively well. They held on as long as they could, and then eventually they cracked. Both teams kind of looked lackadaisical. Like, both teams looked like, oh, we got this. And they just kept saying, we got this, until they finally woke up and they were like, oh, man, like, we're not going to win. We really got to start putting the foot on the gas. Both teams, like, that's what the Titans reminded me of on Sunday watching that game. Like, they started up 10-0. They're kind of lackadaisical, and then they didn't really score after that. So the Seahawks did. They were kind of just drifting through that game, and then by the time they woke up, they were down by 3 scores. And they were like, oh, man, we got to put the foot on the gas, and they brought it within 10, but it was too late. When the Rams got up 3 scores, it was over, in the fourth quarter. So the Seahawks were just lackadaisical for some reason. Like, they're just kind of rolling through the game. Like you said, they thought they were the better team. And in the playoffs, you can't just assume you're going to win. You never can assume you're going to win. Look at the Steelers. They thought they were going to. We all thought they were going to just walk through the Browns, and by the time they blinked, they were down 28-0. So it's just the Steelers and the Titans and the Seahawks all did that this past weekend. Just kind of played like they already had the game in hand, and they got their butts handed to them.
That happens. As I said, that happens all the time. I feel like we see it all the time as players just take a game for granted because they think that they know that on paper they're the better team or whatever, but they take it for granted and don't really play to the level that they probably should.
Yeah, I mean the Steelers. I don't know what happened. Whenever the Thanksgiving night game got suspended, when they came back from that, they were a different team. Maybe they had turkey. Thanksgiving night. They say that whatever that chemical is in, I think it's trichinella or something.
Tryptophan.
Yeah, tryptophan.
Sure.
Makes you tired.
Tryptophan.
Makes you tired. They must have had too much turkey or something because they were horrible from that point on. They were a completely different team. Yes, they had the benefit of a good schedule the first, 10, 12 weeks, but you don't get lucky winning 12 of 10 in a row. That doesn't happen. You still have to be somewhat of a good team. I mean, it doesn't mean you're a Super Bowl team, but, to just come out the end of the season the way they did was just really disappointing. I thought they left a lot on the table. I don't know. I think that they need to retool their team and figure out what they're going to do for next year.
I think
But go ahead.
I was going to say I think one of the problems the Steelers had was injuries. I'm not trying to make excuses because I've been vocal about the fact that I didn't think they were a great team and that their record really was better than what they were. But I do think a big part of it is they had injuries, especially at the important positions. They had linebacker injuries, which I mean I know for a fact linebacker has got to be one of those important positions, but it's overlooked a lot of the time because John always likes to say some things in sports are not sexy, but he's right. Like being a linebacker is not a big deal. Being quarterback, wide receiver, running back. Those are like the big name positions. Those are what people care about. And so people look past that. But when you lose not only just linebackers, period, but some of the best in the game and obviously the best on your team, that's going to hurt. And it's not to make excuses because, again, I do think the Steelers did get a little bit lucky with their schedule. And, of course, that's not their fault. Nothing you can do about a good schedule. That just is what it is. But the truth is, Steelers had a really easy schedule. When you look at the beginning of their schedule, I mean, it was the cakewalk, basically. And, again, it's not to blame them. It's just that happened. And when they started finally, really facing better opponents later in the season, the injuries caught up to them. They couldn't keep up, and teams that were playing better, Washington was at least playing better at that time, right? Washington started to look good. I'm not saying they were a good team, but they played well. They caught up with Pittsburgh, and that's what happens. I mean, and my thing is, if Pittsburgh had played, let's say Ravens, Browns, I really think the whole NFC West instead of like the NFC East was who they were starting their season. If they played teams like that were legitimate playoff hopefuls, at least they may have fared better because they at least would have had better competition. Again, it's not their fault, but we would have either A, found out what the Steelers really were, or B, the Steelers would have, if they continued to play well, would have been better because they played against higher competition.
Well, let's not throw the injuries in there because the Browns are missing some guys. I mean, the Browns are missing their head coach. It doesn't get much bigger than that. I mean,
I'm just saying that's why the Steelers played poorly later in the season, not every game.
That was basically the Browns' best weapon all year is Kevin Stefanski. I mean, they're missing him. They're missing players, some key players, some not so key players. Some guys that have never played in the NFL, practice squad guys were playing in a playoff game in Pittsburgh. Like
Baker Mayfield said, one of his linemen he had met right before the game started, introduced himself to the guy in the locker room.
And Mike Tomlin will not say, well, we had injuries, so we lost. Like, it's next man up in the playoffs. You guys know enough sports to know, in the playoffs it doesn't matter. Like you get next man up. Like that's what championship team does. They overcome those injuries. And the Steelers clearly are not close. Not to get off topic, but they have a lot of things to consider. The quarterback position, the running back position. I would replace James Conner in a heartbeat. I just don't think he's the guy. Juju is going to be a free agent. I would wipe my hands with him, get rid of him. Because you have some slot guys. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool's a good outside guy. You need a number one to lead the receivers, and Juju's not that guy. He's too worried about the TikTok and the dancing and the things like that.
He's very involved in himself, too much.
And let's be honest. I mean, he was really good when AB was there, of course, because AB was taking all the coverage. But once he became the number one guy, he hasn't been the same guy since because he's not a number one. He's a slot guy, which is great, but they need a real true number one, because I think Ben will retire. He really looked like he was contemplating retirement sitting on that bench. If you guys saw him after the game, he just was staring into space. Like
it looked like Tom Brady, but not in a good way.
It looked like he was done. That's
career.
Yeah.
Getting to that point in his career, it's almost time. I mean, him, Phillip Rivers, Brady, Breeze. It's almost time to call it a day.
Honestly, this is just me, not to interrupt, but if I was Pittsburgh and Roethlisberger retires, I contact Houston about Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson in Pittsburgh with that defense and some weapons, he can make those weapons even better. And with amazing coaching and Mike Tomlin and that coaching staff, I think that would be
the guy who coaches to lose.
The guy that intentionally lost so he'd face the Browns in the playoffs. You mean that guy?
It backfired, didn't it? They took him for granted.
It's proof that he clearly didn't do that on purpose, because if he would have done that on purpose, he would have been more confident in his ability to win. I don't think
maybe they were overconfident. They looked overconfident. They almost looked like the Seahawks. You know,
they made mistakes all game. It started with a bad snap on the first play of the game. Ben played like garbage basically the whole
noodle
game.
arm, as I said.
I can say, oh yeah, great. You know, he had 5 touchdowns. He had a lot of touchdowns, but he also threw a bunch of interceptions. So
it was a lot of garbage time stats because they were down.
Right, and the other thing is, if you look at how many passes he threw, it was astronomical. So
it was an NFL record for a playoff game, 68.
There you go. So that kind of gets to my point. They didn't do good, and those stats are misleading. So anybody that thinks, oh, Ben had a good game, no, he didn't. The stats are misleading. When you throw that many times, you're bound to get some touchdowns and some yards, and it's going to happen. But you also have to look at the interceptions. If you throw that many times, you got to make better decisions.
I've been saying in the cold weather, the noodle arm will show up.
I don't know if I blame the cold weather, but
and to your overconfidence comment, they didn't have a chance to be overconfident. They were down 28-0 in
right.
minutes.
No, going into the game, before the game, like everybody was basically saying, "Oh, you're going to win," you know, and they probably were like, "Oh yeah, you know, we're going to win. Everybody's betting on us. We got this." Like the Browns are down their head coach. You know, we're at home. Browns just barely beat us in their stadium with our backups in. You know, like if you're the Steelers, you probably are like, we got this.
But that's football. You should always think you're going to win. I mean, if you don't think you're going to win, why are you on the field?
Well, there's a difference between that and being, you know, overconfident. Like the Seahawks.
There's a difference between feeling confident that you're going to win and being overconfident and cocky that you know you're going to win. Because you shouldn't know you're going to win. Because if you know you're going to win, that's when you get overconfident. You should know in your head, okay, I think I can win this, but you shouldn't know, oh, I've won this game already. Because if you think like that, you're going to end up losing every time because you're not going to give the full effort. I agree with John on that one. And I normally don't agree with you, John.
So, you know, let's talk about the Bears Saints, but I don't want to talk about the game yet. I want to talk about what we spoke about on Sunday. What did you guys think about the Nickelodeon coverage? I actually was impressed by it. I couldn't stand it. But I love that the NFL went outside the comfort zone and found a way to market the game to kids in a different way. Besides the way that they've done for 50-plus years during the Super Bowl era, throwing it on the major networks, they finally went to Nickelodeon, who I'm sure paid a decent amount to put the game on. And I loved that the way they went ahead and did it. And I watched a little bit just so I could see what they were doing. Of
course.
What did you guys think about it?
Yeah. I'll let Jake take it first.
It was just different. You know what? It was kind of refreshing. It's football's the same every week for as long as I can remember. And don't get me wrong, I love it the way it is, and I would never change a thing because I love football. But you know what? It was kind of cool. There were things I didn't love about it. I'm not going to sit here and love every second of it. There were some things that were a little bit childish for me. You know, they had the slime that they were using during the game, and that was a little bit, like, you know, the graphics and all that. I was like, I'm not a fan of all of that. That's a little bit too much. But, you know, to counteract that point, I understand that's Nickelodeon's thing. So that was obviously, you know, because that's their thing. They want to be as authentic as they can be. Personally, it wasn't for me but I still liked it, and it didn't feel that abnormal. Besides the fact that knowing it's on a different channel and those minor things, the rest of it felt like any other football game to me. It didn't feel like I was watching. You know, I wasn't thinking like, man, this channel sucks. I hate this. I was like, it's just another football game to me. I admit I didn't watch most of it on there, but when I watched, it didn't feel different.
I watched all of it on there, actually. You know, I tuned in like halfway through the first quarter, and the rest of it I watched. And at first I was like, man, I thought like that. I was like, man, this is childish. This is dumb, you know. But then I watched all of it, and it grew on me. I know Jacob in our chat had said, no, this is dumb. This shouldn't happen. I should go back to what it was. I get it. He's older.
He's just a frustrated Bears fan. I just need to say that.
Also, he wants it to stay. He wants football, like you said, to stay the way it's been forever. I get that. But at the same time, my point to him was, you can keep it on CBS and you can also have it on Nickelodeon, and they can make you happy, and then they can make kids and parents happy on Nickelodeon, and you both win. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I actually like this. I like the idea of doing this more often, trying this with other things. Baseball, Jacob made a good point in our chat. He had mentioned that baseball needs to try this. Yes, 100%. Baseball needs a shot in the arm more than any other sport. And baseball would just absolutely, this would go, you would get kids, watching because it's on Nickelodeon, obviously. They do slime stuff. You can do all kinds of stuff with baseball. I think it's actually easier to do with baseball than it is football with this kind of thing. And CBS, or not CBS, Nickelodeon knocked it out of the park with this. Nate Burleson was fun on the commentary. I don't know the other guy, never heard of him, but they even got a child in on it, which was kind of cool. And Sean Payton got slimed after the game. If any of you watched the video, that was pretty cool. He actually took a bucket of slime. So I get that you say it was childish, but at the same time, there's a lot of...
It was horrible to me, but the concept was brilliant.
There were so many parents that I had talked to that said that they are able to get their child to sit down and watch the game with them for once, and they never had that happen before. Their kid never was able to jump in front of the TV and watch a game. Well, them and their child sat down and spent time together and actually watched the game together. And that was a lot of parents that I talked to, which is pretty cool. And how many times do you hear that? If it's on CBS, you hear, yeah, me and my kid sat down and watched it. No, your kid's going to go and probably play video games or something. So I think it's a great opportunity, and you expand. If you're the NFL, you're expanding your market. You're getting to those young kids at a very early age by going through Nickelodeon. You're planting that seed. You potentially have fans from 5 years old all the way until they're like 90 years old. So great job by the NFL. Absolutely fantastic job.
There was one other thing that they did that I thought I didn't see it while I was watching it, because just in the few seconds I watched the game on Nickelodeon, I didn't see it. But I know from social media that this is what they did. They had, when there were penalties, they had like a little thing pop up on the bottom of the screen that explained the penalties.
Yeah, it was young Sheldon.
Right. And I can tell you, when I was a kid, I watched football because my dad wanted me to watch, and he's a Giants fan, and that's where I got my fandom from. When I was a kid, I didn't understand the game. So when you don't understand it, you don't appreciate it as much. Now, obviously,
that was smart that they did
right.
That.
But now, obviously, I appreciate it because I understand it. But I learned that as I got older, appreciating the game comes from understanding it first, and that's what makes you love it. So that combined with the fact that it was a little childish, but that's what's going to draw kids in.
That's the point. Yeah.
I'm saying that's the perfect way to get a kid.
Yeah.
When I was younger, if I had that, I would have loved football when I was younger more so than I did.
It wasn't meant for John, Jake, and JB. It was meant for John's kids, and it was meant for the parents and the kids.
Right, which is why I applaud them completely for it. I hated it. Listen, I'm not going to tell you I sat there and liked it, but I love the marketing of it.
Right.
And I love
not
the
my
fact
thing, but it was very well done.
And I thought that was really cool because I know it wasn't meant for me, but I watched it just to see what it was so I could talk about it, because that's what we do here. We talk about all the stuff that's happening in sports. And I thought this was a monumental thing.
Well, there was also some cool things that they did. They also were revealing, they're little tidbits, but some of these players favorite foods, their favorite ice creams, things like that. So that was kind of cool. You were figuring out, they were telling you Alvin Kamara's favorite ice cream, Drew Brees' favorite ice cream, their favorite pizza, stuff like that. So that was kind of cool that, you don't really know that stuff. And that's, as sports fans, we kind of like to know everything about our players, that we watch. So that was kind of cool.
And I can agree with what you said, Jake, about the rules. Because you know how I learned the rules to hockey before I liked it? I played Sega Genesis, NHL 96 with Roenick. That's how I learned hockey and learned to understand it. Before that, I had no idea what offsides was. I was like, what?
And how many kids, honestly, do you think watch a CBS game or something? They listen to those rules, listen to Tony Romo explain it or whatever, John Perry or whoever is talking about the rules, and then they just tune it out and they're like, this is confusing, and they don't watch the game again. They just give up on the sport. You're probably a lot of kids, so that was a good idea with the young Sheldon. I didn't like it because young Sheldon annoys me, but that was a good idea.
It's not for me. I agree, but the idea itself is awesome. And
Yeah.
again, I'm with you guys. I applaud the NFL for doing this because you know what? Even if you get 5 kids, in 20 households,
Yep.
I'm making up numbers, of course. It's 5 new fans that'll probably be fans for life.
Yep. That's a lot of money down the road. And, this is something I was thinking of. I know Gary Bettman listens to our show, so maybe Roger Goodell does. What if you do this for the Super Bowl too? You have it on CBS as the home, but you also have it on Nickelodeon, because how many kids are going to tune into CBS? Probably not as many, but if you put it on Nickelodeon and host a Super Bowl on that in addition to CBS, I think that would be, you would draw in more people, I think. And, CBS would lose some viewers, but altogether the NFL would win, and the NFL is trying to win.
Not only that, they could probably get more sponsors for Nickelodeon. They could get more sponsors all told because they could have sponsors for both channels.
Yeah, and
the NFL would love that.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea if they try and explore something like that.
It's an interesting idea, and you know what? The more we talk about it, the more sense it makes. Like, the more I really think about it, there's a lot of potential in them. I don't see a reason for them to not take advantage of it, or at least try.
I really think baseball, if they were watching, the biggest key was just give it to them, to use that to their advantage. Go to Nickelodeon, and instead of Nickelodeon paying them, they pay Nickelodeon. You know what? Put on a game of the week for us.
Baseball needs the help.
Baseball's an old man's game, let's be honest. It's an older person's game. They need to appeal to young kids. Somehow they have no idea how to do it clearly. And you're not getting kids to games because of COVID. So, and everybody's at home. You might as well get people watching, get kids watching by, this is your in.
Here, Nick, here's this money. We're giving it to you. Put on a game of the week. Draw those kids in every week. And, throw on all your stars. Throw on your Tatis Jr., who's actually in a commercial.
Mike Trout,
Imagine what they could do.
Commercials now.
Yep.
Not only that, imagine what they could do with, again, we call it childish, but all their slime and all their other stuff that they do. Imagine the amount of graphics and stuff they could do with the game of baseball. But there's so much potential when you really think about it that
when a guy strikes out.
Right. There's so much you can do with that.
When you get a hit, when you hit a home run. A home run would be a slime zone or something.
You could have slime cannons going off on the kids would appreciate that, and it would work because obviously that would be the intent. Yeah, there's a lot of potential. So hopefully Rob Manfred is listening, because I know Gary listens, and I'm of the belief that Gary tells everybody else, all the other commissioners of not only the 4 major sports leagues, but soccer, lacrosse, any curling, any sport you can think of. He tells them and says, look, you don't have to listen to me when I tell you to listen to these guys, but I would, because I may not give them credit, but they're the geniuses behind my plans, as you know.
Listen, Rob knows a good thing, and I'm sure if he's not listening, he has Joe Torre or somebody else that works in the major league offices that's following along.
I know Joe Torre would love that idea.
We just saved baseball, guys.
There you go.
In about 50 years, when I'm probably not here and you guys are close to not being here,
thank you.
We get inducted into Cooperstown and we have that plaque, Journey with the Jays. These guys saved baseball by saying, let's put it on Nickelodeon. Just remember, that was it happened.
That was
tonight.
us. That was this moment.
This generation's Jackie Robinson.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I don't want to disrespect Jackie. But get it back to the NFL. So what are we thinking about this weekend? Who's going to the NFC and the AFC championship game, guys?
John, I'll let you start this time.
It's gonna be the top 4 teams. It's gonna be the Bills, the Chiefs, the Saints, and the Packers. It's gonna be the typical teams that's been projected all season. As much as the Bucs think they're gonna win, Saints waxed them twice for a reason. As much as the Ravens think they're gonna win, the Ravens got away with one against the Titans. Titans kind of didn't play as well as they should have. They lollygagged through that. Not to take away from the Ravens. The Chiefs are going to wax the Browns. I know the Browns have had a great season. I know that's a great story. They beat Pittsburgh. But there's a difference between Pittsburgh and Kansas City, gigantic difference. And Kansas City's rested, they're well rested, they're waiting. Browns just got done playing their game. And they're going to get waxed by Kansas City. This one's not going to even be close. It's going to be the top 4 teams in the conference championships, when it's all said and done this weekend.
I have to agree with John. I mean, I hate to sound kind of like boring because those are the obvious teams to pick. Like I understand those are the most easy, obvious picks that you can make because, the top 4, that makes sense, right? And I know I can say that, but at the same time, they're the teams that make the most sense. Like those are the teams that, to me, they're most obvious. You got Buffalo against Baltimore. Okay, look, all the respect in the world to Baltimore, but Buffalo's on another level right now. And I think the way that they've played as of the end of the regular season and the start of the playoffs, they are the best team in the AFC right now. Now, when I'm talking about the way they played, I'm not saying on paper. The way the Chiefs finished the season versus the way the Bills finished the season, total opposite ends of the spectrum. And the ways the Bills started the playoffs, and obviously the Chiefs haven't had that yet, so I can't hold that against them. But you look at those two teams, the Bills have been unbelievable. Josh Allen is playing amazing. The defense looks great. They're on another level. And the Chiefs have looked a little flat recently. You look at that Falcons game, it wasn't so great. So that's why I say that. It's not to say that if it comes down to the two of them, I'm choosing the Bills over the Chiefs because I don't know yet because I haven't seen the Chiefs in the playoffs. I want to see that before I'd make a determination. But based on all that, I'd actually say the Bills are the best team in the AFC at this moment. So having said that, I'm obviously rolling with the best team. Then you're talking about Kansas City. They're still my number 2 in the AFC, despite not looking as good as they can be. Patrick Mahomes speaks for himself, and that whole offense speaks for itself. I don't need to go in depth about that. And as good as Cleveland looked, the Browns, they played a bad Pittsburgh team. And I say bad because I've said it many times. Their record was much better than the team actually was. I don't think they were as great. Injuries hurt them. A lot of things hurt them. I was still surprised that Cleveland won, but with that said, I'm still saying I would have given the Steelers a better chance in this game, actually. Cleveland's not as good as they may seem. They're good, but they're not on the level of a team like the Chiefs yet. They haven't come to their time. Rams, look, they're good. I don't know what's going on with Jared Goff yet. We don't know if he's going to play, obviously. They don't have I want to say a backup. They have a backup, but they don't have a viable backup at this point. They lost their backup last week. And Jared Goff, I don't know if he's going to be 100%. I'm assuming he'll play because they need him. But with his injuries, I don't know. Cooper Kupp hasn't practiced this week as far as I know. So that's going to hurt them as well. And obviously Aaron Rodgers is on a whole nother level. He's MVP this season without a question. The Packers decided to draft another quarterback. And if the intent was to piss Aaron Rodgers off, hats off to you because you did a great job. You got him to play one of the best seasons of his career. He looked incredible. And he's going to continue to do that. And then the last game, Tampa versus New Orleans. Look, Drew Brees knows this is most likely, we've talked about it, this is almost guaranteed to be Drew Brees' last season. And there have been, I don't even call them rumors, it's just there have been a lot of reports saying that Drew Brees is going to play in his last playoff run. This is it. Once he's done with this season, there's a lot of talk that he's going to retire. I believe it's CBS, correct me if I'm wrong. NBC, okay, it's NBC. That is obviously he's already gotten talks with them about signing a contract and working for them. So obviously he's got a retirement plan, so to speak, set up. So when you factor in all that, he's going to try.
And kids, he's at that kind of age.
Absolutely.
Where he's like, I want to spend time with my kids. Not necessarily have to prepare for football, which is 24/7 job.
Absolutely, he's trying to go out with a bang in his last, but most likely his last season.
I don't know. So I'm going to tell you this, guys. There's going to be an upset. You can't go with all 4 favorites. Which game has the shot to be the upset?
It would have to be Tampa. If there's any, it would have to be the Tampa game. I mean, that would be the one you have the highest chance at. The lowest is probably the Browns. I mean, it's close with the Rams. The Ravens have a good chance at beating the Bills. I mean, that's going to be close. I'm not going to say the Bills are going to blow them out.
Yeah, I'd say it's either the Baltimore game or the New Orleans game. It's one of those two for me. I do not see Green Bay losing to the Rams. It's just they are not the Seahawks, Aaron Rodgers is a different kind of level of a playoff player. We know that. And the same thing kind of goes for the Chiefs for me. Is Patrick Mahomes is not going to lose that game to the Browns. It's just, and it's not to disrespect the Browns. It's just I really don't think that they are good enough to even come close to beating the Chiefs. And if they keep it close, I'll be impressed. With that. And it's not that the Browns are bad. Just the Chiefs are the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't think that the Chiefs are going to have much of a problem. I think the Browns won their Super Bowl last week.
Yep.
Their season now, whatever they do, they're on,
it's house money.
It's house money. But, the game that everyone's got to watch, in my mind, is Baltimore-Buffalo. I think that's, going to be the game of the week. Forget about the NFC. The NFC bores me right now. I'm not excited about any of the 4 teams.
You don't think Tampa versus the Saints is going to be a good game?
It happened twice already. I'm not excited about either team. The Saints are probably my favorite team out of the NFC left. I think Green Bay has the best shot to go to the Super Bowl. Am I happy about seeing any of them in the Super Bowl? Not really. When the Rams went to Buffalo and had that great game, I said that would be a great Super Bowl. But I don't know if I can't see the Rams beating Green Bay this week. And I like the Rams defense, but I just don't see it happening, But I think the best shot for an upset is Baltimore. They're playing unreal football, but they're going down to Buffalo in the winter. It's going to be a great game. We're going to see what Josh Allen can do, and with Diggs there, he's been unbelievable. All the Josh Allen haters, really, I want them to all come out and say that they were wrong,
right?
Because it's insane how well he's played. He's not, he's not a Mahomes. He's not a Brady.
He's in the tier below them, right?
But he sure can manage a game and win games, and that's all you need. A guy like that. You know what he reminds me of as a Giant fan, Jake? You remember Phil Simms?
Yeah, I mean, I never watched him live, but yes, I know. I know
he's
my
like
history.
that. I mean, he's not flashy, not phenomenal, but won games. Just a very good player.
And the thing to take away from that game, not to interrupt you, is the reason the Ravens had success on defense was they were able to stack the box against Derrick Henry with 8 defenders. Most of his runs they stacked with 8 defenders, and he didn't do well at all. You're not going to get that against the Bills because the Bills don't run the ball. And the weakness of the Ravens, even with some great cornerbacks, is those cornerbacks get burnt a lot. And that's their weakness, is getting burnt.
What scares me about this game is that the Bills are very one-sided.
Right,
that's the only thing that concerns me about the Bills.
The Ravens' success is being able to stop the run with their guys, Derek Wolfe up front, with Brandon Williams. Their strength of their defense is stopping the run and then forcing you to pass. Whereas the Bills are going to say, we're going to tell you we're going to pass against you, Baltimore, but you're not going to be able to stop us. And then whenever you try to, Josh Allen's going to roll out and he's going to, you're going to have to try and tackle him. So that the Ravens' strength is stopping the run, but guess what? They won't have to stop the run because they're going to get passed all over. So that's the thing that about Baltimore is they're not going to be able to play to their strength defensively, and that's the thing I think is going to hurt them.
I think if you're Buffalo, no matter what, at the end of this year, you go out and you get yourself a beast of a running back, and
you're going to have
unstoppable. That is going to make that team the next level. You're going to play Kansas City for the championship
next year. Buffalo is going to be different after this year because they're losing their offensive coordinator, who is, if you know anything about Brian Gable, Josh Allen went from a 52% completion percentage guy to what he has done this year with his offensive coordinator, his new offensive coordinator that he got. And he's going to lose him. He's going to lose him after this season. He's already getting tons of offers. He's probably going to end up being a head coach somewhere in the NFL. Rightfully so. He's done a good job. So what will Josh Allen do with a brand new offensive coordinator? It's hard to adjust to a new offensive coordinator. That guy's really done a lot to get Josh Allen out of his shell. As JB's talked a lot about Josh Allen's success. How is he going to succeed? What offensive coordinator are they going to bring in that plays to his strengths, and will it play to his strengths? Because you saw with the Dolphins, Chan Gailey and Tua don't match. You got to have an offensive coordinator that matches. Carson Wentz and Frank Reich, they're a perfect match in Philly. But when he left, after they won the Super Bowl with Foles, after Frank Reich left, Wentz hasn't been the same. He's only had one great season. That was with Frank Reich in his MVP year. So offensive coordinators do make a big difference. So what's Allen going to do next year without his guy? What's Mahomes going to do without Eric Bieniemy when he ultimately leaves after this year? So those are big things that you just have to think about.
I think
about next year.
I think when you're that level of good, and I know you bring up Carson Wentz, but Carson Wentz, we can all agree, he's never will be most likely at the way things are going, has never really been on the level that Josh Allen has been on.
And that MVP season he was having was pretty magical in 2017 before he tore his ACL.
I'm saying I don't think he was ever on the level that Josh Allen is on currently. And more importantly, he's definitely never been on the level that Patrick Mahomes.
Maybe he was starting to get there before he tore that ACL. I mean, that was a pretty great season. You know, we can't forget about what he did that year. It was pretty amazing to watch. He was just on. He was on.
The point is, especially Patrick Mahomes, you brought him up.
Yeah,
there's no way, right? But my point I'm getting at is, guys that are that good can, generally speaking, specifically, not Patrick Mahomes, because I'm not worried about him. But I have the feeling that Josh Allen he's got to the point where they've unlocked his talent. He's been able to figure out, okay, this is what I need to do to be a great quarterback, right? He's got that in his head. And now with that, whoever's going to be his coach, it's going to help him because now he knows his strength. He knows his weaknesses. He knows himself as a good quarterback and knows how to adjust in the games now. So, yes, losing an offensive coordinator can hurt, and I'm not disagreeing.
It does, yeah.
However, I think the fact of the matter is Josh Allen was good last season. He was still good. Wasn't this good, but he was a good quarterback nonetheless. He's gotten better this season. Things have been unlocked for him. He knows what to do now, right? He's a veteran now in the league. I truly think without his offensive quarter, he may not repeat exactly what he did this season, but he will still be a great quarterback next season. And that's what really good quarterbacks do.
But that team, not to get off topic, but the Bills really needed everything out of Josh Allen this year to just to get to the 2 seed.
And that's why they need a run game.
If he comes down to earth a little bit from this year, if he regresses a little bit from this year, and they got the 2 seed, and they're not as good, then if the Dolphins, with their playmakers potentially out of the draft, they could swoop in and potentially take that division. So
if the Bills can get a running back, then Josh Allen won't need to do everything. Though.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that's what JB and I are getting at.
Better. And Zach Moss, they have Zach Moss, and they like him. He's just not there yet, I don't know. That's just me.
But they're the one workhorse back from being a dominant team, where you say them against the Chiefs would be almost like when we watched the Rams against the Chiefs.
It'll just be
a couple of years ago,
like
that.
Well,
back and forth.
I mean, speaking of offensive coordinators, I saw today Brian Schottenheimer, since he got to the Seahawks, this is his 3rd season.
He got fired today, by the way.
Russell Wilson has had the 2nd best quarterback rating in the league since Schottenheimer got the job in the last 3 seasons. 2nd best QBR in the league.
And where's the
that note on Schottenheimer? He is no longer in Seattle. The team decided to part ways, basically because there were philosophical differences between
whatever
the coach.
That means. I guess I don't know. Whatever that means.
I take it as they disagreed on the direction of the team, maybe the direction of how they wanted plays called, whatever, and they decided it was best to part ways. Truthfully, he'll get another job, no question about that. Yeah. He may even get a head coaching job. It's possible. What he did with Russell Wilson, like you just said, it's totally possible. There's a lot of head coaching vacancies right now, so it wouldn't surprise me.
And with his name, he'll get a job because clearly, his dad was a coach for a very, very long time. So he'll get a job, no doubt.
So,
absolutely. Not worried. He'll definitely get another offensive coordinating job with the Leafs. I wouldn't be surprised to have a head coach out of Schottenheimer. Again, he's a name to keep in mind. Granted, there are a lot of guys people are looking at. Robert Saleh, Eric Bieniemy, those are just 2 of the bigger, really big names. There's going to be a lot of head coaching vacancies to fill up, though.
So I got a couple of quick questions for you guys. And, everybody watching, we didn't touch the NBA. I want to touch the NHL before we finish. We're not on real 1100 right now, so we're going to be take our time, and not have to worry about, wrapping up as quickly. Now, with the this week, Deshaun Watson was talking about how he wants to go to Miami. So, John, we just drafted Tua last year, right? Do you want Deshaun Watson?
No, that's an absolutely stupid idea. Chris Mortensen is just trying to, I guess, get clickbait or whatever he's trying to do. That's a stupid report. Let me break it down for you. It's stupid. Why? Because Deshaun Watson's $40 million. Why would you want to pay him $40 million when you already got some guys tied up, in money, like Xavier Howard wants more money, rightfully so. He wants to be paid higher than Jalen Ramsey. When you get 10 picks, of course you're going to want that. They have a lot of guys on rookie deals like Tua. Why would you want to go from paying a guy on a rookie deal to $40 million, a guy with tread on his tires, multiple torn ACLs in his career, which is a lot. He could easily get another one. Hopefully not, but when you have multiple torn ACLs, prone, so there's just a lot of tread on those tires. You're going to give up Tua. You're going to give up the third overall pick. You're going to give up the 18th pick, potentially a second round pick. Why would you want to give up all that capital in Tua just to get Watson? And then you're going to have Watson in the same spot Tua's in, where there's no playmakers, where you have no capital to draft anything. You're going to miss out on Devonta Smith. You're going to miss out on Najee Harris. You're going to miss out on Sewell, potentially the linemen. So you're going to miss out on all these guys that you really are high on, and potentially trade back from 3, get a king's ransom, as I've been saying, from Atlanta or Detroit, one of those teams that really are desperate to get to the 3 spot. You're giving up all that just so you can get Deshaun Watson. I mean, and pay him $40 million a year. That seems like too much for me. Team that you and here's the thing, not even being a homer, how many teams have we ever seen have this opportunity that the Dolphins have? Where you have a team that just went 10-6, you have the best draft capital you could probably ever have. You have a lot of guys on rookie deals. Offensive line, your best offensive lineman is 20 years old. Your offensive line's a bunch of rookies, basically. Solomon Kinley, you got in the 4th round, and he's a stud on the offensive line. So you just have so many pieces that are working together. And as you guys have said, next 2 years, this team's going to be absolutely dominant. And why would you give all that up just so you can get Watson? I just don't think it makes sense to go that hard when you just trust the process that Flores has been talking
I agree with you. I agree with you completely. Now, I got a text today, and this is going to go to Jake. So we're Giant fans. We can't deny that. Everybody knows. And somehow I lost my screen. So right now, would we want to go Jones for Watson? What would you say on that?
Depending on what we're giving up, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I know John just talked about how there's tread on his tires, and you're right. I'm not disagreeing with anything.
Watson.
I know.
Yeah.
No, I completely understand what you're saying. But my thing is this. Deshaun Watson's, in our case, and John, I agree with what you said, by the way. I want to put that up there. Yeah. I actually agree with everything you said. But in our case, Giants have a great running back in Saquon when he's healthy, of course.
I guess
he hasn't been healthy.
Right, yeah.
But when you think about what this offense can be, right? You have Saquon when he's healthy. He's great. We need an offensive line, so we need to fix that. And that improved throughout the season. We have decent receivers. Sterling Shepard's not bad. Darius Slayton, not bad. He's proved himself a little bit. There is some. He would have some playmakers. They're not great. Evan Ingram's is a Pro Bowler somehow.
Yeah, you can definitely work with those guys.
Deshaun Watson would say he's a Pro Bowl tight end, even though he doesn't deserve to be, and I know it. He would have a Pro Bowl tight end. Giants would improve at quarterback. They would get exactly what they need to make this team better. Defense is not bad. It has improvements coming, sure, but it would be everything about it to me would make sense. I would love it. The Giants would improve on the quarterback position. All right, if they give up a little draft capital, This team is a decent team, and they need a quarterback to help them get over the hump to be a better team. I'm not calling them a great team, but they'd be a better team and to at least start winning the NFC East. With Deshaun Watson at the helm, if Dak Prescott were not to come back, they could potentially just monopolize the NFC East for the next few years because I don't know what's going to happen with the Eagles. Washington, we don't know what's going to happen with Alex Smith. We don't know if he's going to come back, and even if he comes back, you just, those are one of the things you don't know, right? They could monopolize the division at the very least, and they could work some trades to maybe get some draft capital, maybe get some linemen. They could do a lot of things and make a lot out of that trade. I've been a guy that tries to support Daniel Jones, but if I'm getting a superstar like Deshaun Watson, I'm not going to say no. I have to take that.
So if you're watching this right now, hit us up on Journey with the Threes on Twitter or email us at what's the email, Jake?
Journey with the Jays podcast at gmail.com.
Where you think Watson's going to end up? Because I want to hear, because there's so many scenarios. There's so many teams that would benefit from him. So, we're going to have a whole off season in a couple of weeks to talk about this because it's not going to happen now.
Right.
So
we're going to have time.
If you think you know where Watson's going to go and why, or why your team needs Watson, email us, hit us on Twitter, because we're going to get back to this topic. But these are just, two of the things. The Miami thing came out of the press, and I got the text today, and I was like, we were talking about it before the show. But NHL starting. Jake, you're excited? I see you got the Rangers jersey on.
Don and I clearly are on the same page. I cannot wait.
John's got a Hurricanes jersey on, so I don't know. We're not talking.
Doesn't mean he's wearing a smart jersey.
Yeah.
He's wearing a garbage jersey. He's, but you know what? This season, I don't care about the Hurricanes. Different division doesn't affect my team. Guys, I cannot wait. I am so excited about this. It starts. We're recording on Tuesday. If you're watching this on Wednesday or later, season's already starting by now. It's starting today or later, or it's already begun. But it starts tomorrow, as we record today, and I'm ecstatic. I can't wait. New division is going to make a lot of things a little bit more. It's going to be more exciting. It's going to be different. Rangers get to play the Islanders.
Maybe we do better at hockey. We'd have more games.
Rangers get to play the Islanders in our opening game, and we get to play them 8 times this season. I know I mentioned it. I can't wait to see Sidney Crosby versus Alex Ovechkin 8 times in one season. I mean, that is – look, COVID has been everything bad. It sucked. It's been terrible. Talk about a blessing in disguise, though, because I get to see 2 of the greatest players in this generation go at it 8 times in a single season. Can't wait. There's only one bad thing that's happening with the NHL right now, and the report came out a couple hours ago now. There are 17 players on the Stars alone that have COVID. That is a problem. So the NHL in total has a total of 27 players on 9 teams testing positive, but 17 players on the Dallas Stars. They are
Were they out at a party?
What?
Yeah, but
Were they at a party or something?
this is going on all over. The NBA is having issues. Philadelphia had issues.
The NBA is an absolute dumpster fire right now.
Yeah, they had a meeting of the NBA Board of Governors today discussing the protocols to work on the different restaurants and stuff. I haven't had a chance to see what's happened with
Are any of those sports, or either of those sports, I should say, are either of those in a bubble or no?
No bubbles.
No bubbles. Okay, so the X factor is put the teams in bubbles, but then again, you put them in bubbles, then they're away from their families, and it's hard on them.
NHL's not doing that. Those players can't handle it. I hate. And I don't mean to make them out seem like they're wusses.
No, I get it. It's mentally
it's so
exhausting.
much.
Yeah.
Not only that, do you want to be away from your family and worry about them? Because it's not like your family's safe if you're away. You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't want anything to happen to you.
You're like, hey, I'm not going to see you for half a year.
If you get sick, I'm away playing, game.
And I can't come see you for 6 months or whatever. Like,
right.
That's hard. I wouldn't ask that of anybody. That's a lot to ask of anybody. But the bubble worked, so they really have to weigh their options, because these sports that worked in the fall, both these sports worked perfectly. Now.
That's why the NBA didn't release its second half schedule yet. They kind of held back on it so that they could make changes after kind of play it by ear. This is an unprecedented times. This is not sports like we've seen up to 2019. 2020 and beyond is God only knows what will happen. We have games that are postponed. We saw NFL football on Tuesdays. You know,
We saw it every day of the week for the
Every
first
day of the
time
week this year.
Every
you know,
the first time in the history of football.
it's insane. Like I've never in my life expected that. But it's interesting, and we'll see what happens. I'm excited. We're going to have some hockey starting. We got hockey, we got NBA. We're getting to the end of the NFL playoffs. We got college basketball, college football just ended. So I mean, we're back into sports kind of regular. What a difference a year makes. NHL champions, Jake. Anyone out there that you have on top of your mind?
Honestly, I'm not saying anything yet, only because two main things. First of all, COVID makes things totally weird. It's, of course, going to affect. More importantly, there's new divisions this year. The realignment of the divisions is going to make such a difference because, I mentioned that my Rangers have to play the Islanders 8 times, but that also means the Capitals play them 8 times, the Penguins play them 8 times. Because of that, you're going to see a bigger – you could see one team beat up on another team for like 6 straight games, and that can make all the difference. And that's going to be the problem that you're going to see. If you have a weak division, you could end up at like number 2 or 3 because the rest of your division sucks and you're okay enough to be at the top. And that's the big thing. So I'm not saying anything yet. And the one team I want to watch out for, because this happened earlier this week, and I want to put this out there real quickly. Corey Crawford of the New Jersey Devils retired this week, and I don't know what the Devils are going to do. I know he wasn't necessarily their number one guy. He was probably actually their backup with Mackenzie Blackwood as the starter last year. He's probably going to start again this year. But he was obviously there to be a great backup and be a mentor. Look out for the Devils to not be very good again this season. And because of that, that's going to make teams like the Rangers, Capitals, Islanders, they're not going to get just a few wins off them. They're going to get up to 8 potential games against them if they can win. That's the thing I'm looking for. With 8 games against a single team, it makes things harder. And for John, your team, you're in a new division this year. You guys were good last year. You at least a playoff team last year. This year in a new division, you may not make it because of the division you're in.
And the thing is, like you said, you play only your division. You don't know how you stack up against any other team in the NHL outside of your division. You have no idea. So that plays a big factor because when you get to the playoffs and you play the Penguins and you're the Hurricanes or something, you don't know how you stack up against each other because you haven't seen each other all year. You haven't seen anybody except your division. So now that can make a difference.
I mean, you look at the Central Division right now. You got Carolina, Chicago, Columbus, Dallas, Detroit, Florida, Nashville, Tampa Bay. Depending on how the season plays out, you could see Tampa at number 1, potentially Carolina at number.
Not a very strong division.
You probably have Tampa at 1, Dallas at 2, Carolina possibly sneaking up all the way up to 3. When in their regular division, they'd
not
be
really
like
anybody else there, yeah.
Right, but normally, and I'm just picking on John's team because they're an easy example right now. Normally in their division, they're probably 4, maybe 5 even. So
normally
they're
in the division with like the Penguins and the Capitals.
Right. Normally you have Islanders, Capitals, Flyers, and Penguins who all could potentially go above you in the standings. So you land at number 5, new division. You land at number 3. Things change. And a higher seeding could mean you make a deeper run, and you never know. That's why, as much as I want to pick a winner already, you just can't. It's gonna be a wild season, and I got to tell you, I cannot wait. I am so excited.
I want to say Gary Bettman, NHL people, best of luck. I'm excited for it. Any other news, guys, before we wrap up?
I don't think anything else going on for us. Really, just start of the season tomorrow. John, anything in baseball?
There's a lot in baseball, but I feel like we've kind of run out of time, so we'll kind of touch on everything next week.
Congratulations, Alabama, winning another national championship. Huge win last night. The Buckeyes, overmatched.
Overrated.
Alabama's just that good, and Nick Saban just unbelievable. Congratulations to them. That's about it for me, guys. I want to wish everyone, thanks for coming out to watch. Raphael, thanks so much for joining us tonight. It's been Journey at the Jays Tuesday nights, live every week on YouTube and Facebook. We'll keep you updated on everything. Don't forget to listen to the program. Follow me at JB_the program, Jake.
Follow me on Twitter as always. All my stuff is over there at Jake_Malik. John?
You can follow me on Twitter, BlueHawks13. And then on Thursdays from 7 to 8, I'm on Fantasy and Flavors, the Carousel with Alex Fleming. JB's on there. I cover the Ravens professionally, so I'll most likely be talking about the Ravens this week, being as they're against the Bills. So that'd be some must-see TV, me against Mookie Hawkins.
Good
And
luck with
enjoy your Martin Luther King Day next Monday. Everybody will probably have a day off, except me.
Me too, don't worry. But that's it for us tonight, guys. We'll see you next week. Enjoy your weekend of Sunday, Saturday football, Saturday night, Ravens, Bills. That's going to be the game to watch, guys. Enjoy it. Have a good one.
Have a good one, everybody.